All right, welcome to the Diplomats, DBN's coverage of Season 9 main event. We have sixth place finisher, Rob O'Brien. And man, this game sucked for you. It kind of sucked for everybody. We just saw that it sucked for you first. And you get to join us and just tell us how much it sucked. It started for you. I think it ended better than it started. It began with you in the hospital doing the Paris method. Why are you? Why I don't? You don't have to get your health stuff, but why even agree to do the Paris method in the hospital? We got a nurse injecting you like this, and then Cedric was injecting you with poison.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Brutal.
Cedric was much worse than the nurse, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, it was just a mild case of appendicitis, and I was fine. So I went ahead with the Paris method because I knew it wasn't going to be that big a deal. I mean, diplomacy wasn't going to kill me.
Did you get to pick second? Did you pick France second?
I picked France first.
Cedric dropped down.
Cedric dropped one.
Cedric dropped. I picked France first. I picked France first because I didn't know the players well enough to have any expectations about how things were going to line up. And because of that, I wanted a stable, defensible power, which turned out to France was that, but it didn't do me much good.
Let's talk a little bit about your, as David Hood calls it, diplomacy origin story. I don't know much about you except we've played online for years. You go by Varmint.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've seen you expand into face-to-face. I think you played virtual. We're seeing you everywhere. So talk to us about how it began and where it's going.
So the first time I heard of diplomacy was from the Grantland article that was written about DixieCon. Was that 11, 12 years ago? And I said, wow, that sounds like a really interesting game. I'd really like to play that. And then sort of set that aside and played other games like poker. And then during the pandemic, like a lot of people, I had diplomacy videos showing up in my YouTube feed, and I found my way to Backstabber. Played a lot of gunboat games on Backstabber, some public games, and then Bob's a Builder invited me over to Olympus. So I played Olympus Season 1, and from there went over to Nexus and started playing Nexus Gunboat League and then Nexus Press League last year.
And you won that, right?
Yeah, I won Nexus Press League last year. I got very lucky getting a couple of solos. Doug Malott is a phenomenal player, so I really felt lucky, and I know a lot of people say that, but it was a very lucky win for me.
Doug's a good player. He beat me in DBNI about 2024. Yeah.
All Doug and I do is fight.
Yeah.
There's no Doug and I have never cooperated. Just endless fighting, and then we have the funniest conversations off the board.
Yeah,
it's like we would be great friends off the board, and then on the board it's rock versus rock. There's no compromise between the two of us.
Yeah, I wish Doug lived within driving distance of me, because I'm sure we could have a lot of fun together.
So tell us what you think your diplomacy strengths are. And as they used to say for my kids, they don't call them weaknesses anymore. It's areas of improvement.
Areas of improvement.
Opportunities.
Yes. I would say my tactics and my strategy are probably my strongest suits. Being able to read the board and then apply what needs to be done in the situation. My diplomacy could be better. And I would say now that I'm starting to play face to face and I've played some virtual, I would say I have a weakness in that I don't pick up on things in real time that I should. I've had a few games where it's had 15-minute deadlines, and after the game, I was like, "Oh, I really should have figured that out at the time, and I'll figure it out an hour after the game's over."
It's tough, yeah, going from press to face. It was an adjustment for me too.
And me as well. It's tough. I had a physical adjustment just because I'm out of shape, but standing for 7 hours and all my adrenaline going into the game, I noticed that my brain was wearing out like in '05 and '06 and '07, and it's difficult. But press has its own challenges, and nothing is more challenging than a Nexus or Olympus main event press final. You've played a lot of press. Just before you talk to us about the players and where you're at, just talk to us about, were you ready for the level and amount of time commitment a game like this takes?
Yeah, I think I had a pretty good baptism on that. The first Olympus semifinal that I played in season 2, it was a game that Bradley Grace won, and there were a lot of serious characters in that game who had played on top boards before, and so that game was pretty intense. There was a tremendous amount of press for about 2 months straight, and so because of that, I felt like I knew what I was getting into with the level of press.
So your neighbors picked you in a way, since you picked France. Cedric picked England, Darcy Germany. Tell us about your opening negotiations with particularly the two of them and what you viewed was happening in the East. Like, just the initial thoughts.
My initial thoughts, I even before negotiations started, I was really concerned. I felt like it was a bad break that Darcy won his semi. I think looking at the players that were in that semi with him, and there a whole bunch of very good players in that semi. Any one of them would have made a concerted effort and a plan to go win the game, and I feel like Darcy didn't really do that.
Did you feel that from the beginning, or just the way he played
No,
during the game?
at the beginning, I thought he was concerned. I read his video as a pitch to EG, so I was
What
very
video are you referencing?
the interview that Darcy did before the game started.
I did too. I thought there was going to be an EG based on his interview.
I thought there was going to be an EG based on his interview. I was very concerned. They did a good job when we got into negotiations. They did a good job of sort of dissuading me from that. In particular, Cedric went way out of his way to make me more comfortable in negotiations. And I feel bad that I didn't pick up on what Cedric was doing right away. I felt like I had much more of a rhythm and an understanding of what he was trying to do later in the game than I did at the beginning.
Talk to me about Cedric's style. I mean, he's all but one. Talk to me about is he aggressive? Does he overwhelm you? Is he flattering? What is Cedric's press style?
He's flattering. He tries to relate to you as a human being, so that there is a level of comfort and a level of understanding of who each other is, and there's a lot of shared interests where he pours time into that. He's very flattering. He's very complimentary. And then he shifted pretty hard when he got to points where he he felt like he needed to make a decision and he wanted to jam you up. He would find ways to jam me up. He would get much more difficult in negotiations, take an unreasonable position, and then wait for the blowback and say, "Whoa, I didn't expect you to do that." And then for long periods of time he would make himself unavailable. But he would provide reasons for why he was unavailable, but make himself unavailable when he didn't want to talk anymore.
What about Darcy? Young kid, happy to be there. Was he? How would you describe your interactions with him?
I like Darcy as a person. I think his interactions in press game are really hard. He does not talk enough. And I would say we had more of a conversation in 1901 than I've ever had with Darcy in a game. But it, it, it tailed off pretty hard in future years. And that was one of my big frustrations in the game. I did not understand Darcy's motivation in the game until 1903. And that really set me back. I think if I had understood Darcy's motivation earlier in the game, I could have made a much better pitch to him.
Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter, but one of your neighbors is obviously Philip, who we're big fans of Philip and his game style. And how did you find interacting with Philip, at least in the early stages?
Interacting with Philip was great throughout the game. I think we both had a similar sense of how to play neighbors as France and Italy, and we got along really well throughout the game. So I liked Philip a lot.
Richard seemed a little in over his head. You don't have to say that, but that's I don't know if you felt that way playing with him.
Richard was nervous at the appropriate points. I got the impression in real time that he did not expect Philip's stab, but from then on, he knew he was in a lot of trouble and he was scrambling. He was still working press and trying to get things done, but he knew he was in a lot of trouble.
I'm imagining later on, Tim is a very big disappointment to you as France, which you need as Russia, which you needed as a counterweight to the EG. But tell us about your interactions with Tim, at least in the beginning, and what you thought of him.
Yeah, I don't want to jump the gun on sort of the last decision in the game, so I'll park that for later. But I got along really well with Tim early in the game. We had a lot of press, despite the fact we had some pretty big time zone differences. Yeah, I got along really well with him. We exchanged a lot of information on what we were seeing in the North and how we would collaborate. Unfortunately, none of that really came to pass.
And the enigmatic, mysterious Nikita, I know probably not a lot of communications between the two of you, but obviously a younger guy coming in with kind of a slippery reputation for how he got into the finals, but a win's a win and he earned it.
Yes.
Any communications with him?
Yeah, I did communicate with him, and I did go back and forth with him a few times. As we got deeper into the game, that tailed off a lot because he had his own issues and he was defending. In particular, the position he got into where he had Turkey really well defended, but he had no ability to advance.
Right.
So we would just check in and say hi, but there was no real negotiation because he also knew that there was no way I was going after Philip. So it's like, okay, what are we going to talk about?
So we'll talk about the moves, which aren't so exciting, actually, but there are questions that I have, and then maybe you could give insight into how this friendship between Cedric and Darcy developed from your standpoint, and then also Darcy's play, which I think you and I and everyone looking at the game sort of indicate that he didn't look like he was playing to win. Some of that was just sort of set up from the very beginning, right? With this fleet to Holland. Did you know that was coming?
No, I did not know there was going to be Fleet Holland.
That's usually probably pretty good for France.
Usually.
I didn't hate it when I saw it. I thought he really should be in Denmark, but this could work either way. So I was not too disappointed when I first saw it.
But you
Do you
still
have
put
a
Cedric,
working? Oh, go ahead, Keith.
but you still put Cedric in Belgium.
I still put Cedric in Belgium. Cedric was getting Belgium. That was an established fact.
Gotcha.
So with that being an established fact, what would be the best thing to do? And I still wanted Cedric to be on board, and Cedric was still saying all the right things.
Gotcha.
Look, at its very basic level, in the early game, it's a popularity game in the West. You have to not be the odd person out.
Mm-hmm.
When the music stops with one of them, you have to have a chair. You thought that was your best way. But I'm curious here with the move to Tyrolia, if there was any consideration about pressuring Munich, if you didn't know if you're on board with Cedric and he's getting Belgium, did you think about that? Did Philip not want to do it? Or is this just me making stuff up?
I think the question came up briefly and we both quickly decided not to do it. Philip wasn't going to support me into Munich, and I wasn't going to support him into Munich. So sort of like, okay, yeah, we're going to do other things.
So plan A, I'm assuming as I'm hearing it, is to work with Cedric?
Yes, plan A was to work with Cedric.
Now, this opening, I framed it as more anti-Italian just because it gives you the option to go Spain, South Coast. Is there a reason you chose this opening as France?
I chose this opening because I believed Darcy and I had a very long conversation about Burgundy, and I eventually said to Darcy, listen, it's going to be better off if we're going to work together that I be in Burgundy, and I could support myself there, but frankly, you should just let me in. You can bounce me if you want to, but it's not going to do you any good, and you know that. So
horrible for Germany to bounce in Burgundy, I think. I know a lot of people do it, but I hate that it's Germany.
Yeah. So that was what that conversation was focused on. I knew I had options against Philip, but I never intended on taking them. I intended on making sure that the DMZ in the Mediterranean was maintained, and so I could focus on the West.
If you knew you were going to Burgundy, that might explain the fleet in Holland a little bit, right? But it does put Denmark at risk, but maybe it's less likely to have an EF, so maybe that was the thought process. Keith, what do you think?
I mean, this opening gives them some options, but if you're not keeping Italy on the table, then I guess Paris to Gascony, Marseille to Burgundy does about the same thing. But yeah, I mean, this is a question just because the only thing this really does differently is you risk Paris not being functional, and then Mid-Atlantic can go to Spain. But
all right, let's push this through to the fall here.
What happened? There we go.
Everybody loves Cedric. You see Holland support him in, and he's covering Munich. It's hard to read as France what's going to happen, but did you still think you had the better relationship with Cedric, or you didn't know?
I thought I had a better relationship with Cedric. I thought I was sort of on the rocks with Darcy, but I didn't know it was going to be an out and out EG.
And I can't remember what you build. What do you build here?
Well, this is the first time Cedric stabbed me.
The first time.
Yeah, the first time.
We had a very long negotiation about what my build should be. Where Cedric opened with, of course, you're going to build 2 armies, and that sort of devolved for a while, and then we built it back up, and so
Wow.
we
Darcy will build 2 armies, not
Yeah.
not France.
yeah, Darcy built 2 armies, and that was a trigger for me. But I was gonna build the builds I did in exchange for Cedric building Fleet Eddie Army London.
Yeah, and now you're done. Like, at least Cedric is announced against you.
Yep. Yeah. It was very clear what had happened from the builds, and I spent 1902. I took a minute being angry at Cedric, and then I spent 1902 writing pages and pages of press to Darcy and getting very little response.
Well, I mean, he's to use a poker term, he's pot committed with 2 armies. He can't attack England.
He can't. And the one thing, and you guys talked about this in one of the episodes, the one thing that he really needed to do if he wanted to give himself a chance to win the game was take Belgium in 1903. And I was in 1902, I was going into excruciating detail as to what the problems in his position were and how Cedric was going to play the game, and that he would never get all of his builds would come by Cedric supporting him in, and Cedric's support was going to be contingent upon Darcy building armies and just working against whoever was in the lead in the East. So I went into that with Darcy in excruciating detail, and like every 5 pages that I sent him, I'd get a line back that said, "Well, I just want to see where the EG goes."
It's frustrating, isn't it? How charm will trump tactics? Isn't that right, Ed?
Yes.
What's even more frustrating? When you're charming like me and people still don't follow you. Like, charm gets you a long way in this game, but if you can't get anyone to follow you with charm, you got a problem.
I yell at people on my board, reason, and they just look at me like, "But he said he's going to give it to me right back," and I'm like, "No, it's stupid."
Darcy's got a lot of problems not having built a fleet. I mean, you're totally right about that, but I think the headline isn't just that it's an EG that anyone could have seen, but that it's an EGR with Russia not coming to the rescue here. I think you need to address this, because this is the counterweight. If you're playing balance of power, you need Russia. If Russia's playing balance of power, which typically Russia does, you need Russia. Instead, you didn't get any help.
Yeah. And Tim repeatedly through the game, when he got a build, I'd be like, "Okay, so are you going North Coast now?" And it would always be, no. There would always be a reason to not build North Coast. And I was like, okay, it leaves me in a really awkward position. And that eventually I'm going to be in a position where I cannot help you, even if you need me to. And that's what happened.
Yeah, with Russia not being able to put any pressure on them, the EG was so out of position for so long that he could have really put just enough pressure to keep you alive. It wasn't suicidal.
Really a great EG. It wasn't like it didn't blow my mind. EG, right? Like, you did everything you could do for as long as you could do it. Push it through to the fall here. I mean,
yeah, all tactics are beautiful. All game, beautiful tactics.
It's an army stranded in Denmark. It's this wandering Berlin army is going all the way to Piedmont. I mean, this craziness that happens. So, here you make all the right calls. I mean, you covered Brest and you supported Burgundy, but it's a product of math, and of course Keith's horrible grades for you. You want to address how hard a grader Keith is?
Well, what I'd like to say about Keith, I think you covered his grading system pretty well. What I'd like to say about Keith is that I felt like he was Cedric's propagandist.
I agree.
He was out there saying, "Oh, Cedric he's a heart, so he's going to do this pure alliance play where they're going to do this and they're going to do that." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, are you watching the same game? Cedric is going to do what's in Cedric's interest." And like right off the bat, you have an EG where England is bigger than Germany. I'm like, that's not an EG. So that was my complaint about Keith, that he was talking about Cedric as if he was the purest Care Bear in all the land, and I'm like, no, he's not.
You Care Bear long enough to get in the best position possible.
Here we are in 1903. I assume this is when you're saying, "Hey, are you going to get Belgium? What are you going to pick up?" Cedric's picking up Brest. What's?
Yeah, and you guys alluded to Bradley making some similar comment in the hidden commentary channel. I was saying, Darcy, you have to go now. This is the turn. Tim is on board to take Norway. You have to take Belgium. If you do not take Belgium and build a fleet here, you cannot win the game, and not in the spring and in the fall. Because
and you would have supported him in.
I would have supported
He
him
did
in.
support him in.
I would have supported him into Belgium at any point that he wanted it. In the spring, he said, "Come back to me in the fall." I said, "Okay, you need to do this. This is the time." And Darcy said he was on board. And then Tim said, "I'm not sure." And I was like, "Okay, Tim, you have to take Norway." And then Darcy said, "I'm out." Tim said, "I'm willing to do it." And at that point, I'm not sure whether Tim was saying that just because he knew he wasn't going to be able to convince Darcy and he wanted to keep me on board. But I said, "Darcy, now's the time. You have to do it. You have no other chance to win the game unless you take Belgium, Tim takes Norway. Cedric won't be able to do anything because he's going to go down 2, and you're going to be able to have a chance to win the game from there." And when Darcy decided to not do that, it was like, okay, Darcy isn't actually planning on winning the game at any point. He's just trying to survive, which was really disappointing. It got confirmed when I saw the Summer Classic coverage, and Ed, I know you lived through that, but I was like,
did. Trust me, I was next to Darcy. I get it, but he had a better ally in that game. It just misplayed it.
Well, he did, but there was a similar thing, because he's sitting there saying, "Micah is in this great position. I have no chance of catching Micah. It's a shame, but I just got to try to get second place for the DBNI points." And I'm sitting there going, "But you're on a top board. You're 1 dot down, and you're just giving up on the game and saying there is no way I can find a way. There's no way I can ask Zoe for dots. There's no way I can stab Zoe. There's no way I can do anything that would allow me to make up a 1 dot difference."
It is a different mentality. Because I think he has apparently justified it. I've seen press where he's like, "I just need a bunch of good results and it'll come through." But a top board, for me, it's win or go home. There really isn't second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. Like, I can't. I don't want to be too harsh on Darcy, because I think it's not an illegitimate way to play. But in my mind, you have to play a top board to win. This is why you got there. You got there to try and win.
Yeah, and it made me think of, you remember when Herm Edwards was the coach of the Jets?
Barely, but yes.
And he held the press conference where he was staring straight at the columnist and said, "You play to win the game." Hello. And like his point was, there are no moral victories. You try to win the game, and that when you're on a top board, that's what you're there to do.
I'm going to give you a mild disagreement. I agree that you play to win the game. That part, sometimes when you're in the mix and you're saying you got to take Belgium to win the game, like I don't know if he had to do it then. Okay, I like, but you have to have a plan to win. It was a good opportunity, but I don't think it would be his last. But in any event,
okay. The reason I would disagree with that is because he's losing my ability to support him.
Right.
So he has to rely on his own units, and he has that army in Denmark, and he's got that army that's going on the trip around the world that isn't going to have any play on anything anywhere near Cedric. He doesn't have units to support himself into Belgium, which is Cedric's only dot that he can get to.
I don't disagree with that, but I guess what I'm saying is we have all been. This is worth talking about, even though it's sort of off of this game. When you're down like you will say anything. He has no assurance that you're going to remain on board with him. It's a one dotter. If Tim works, it's 2 dots. He does have advantage, but when you've been in the Darcy position before, and sometimes the best thing is to keep going a little bit, right? It's not the easiest decision in the world. Like I think you're making it seem like it's an easy decision for Darcy. I think it's a difficult one. I would have made it. I would have done what you wanted to do, I think, but I don't think it's an easy call.
I've never been the Germany that puts down 2 armies in 1901.
Fair enough. But
you've
been in positions where you're an ally with a stronger ally, and this is not all right. Meanwhile, you get a fleet piffed. That's good. You don't lose anything in 1903. You played France better than Greg did.
With the Burgundy.
You lost Burgundy here and is in Piedmont. So, all right, go ahead, Keith. Roll it through the winter.
I love that you supported him to Belgium still, because it let me know that you were doing all the groundwork to make the plan work. So I knew exactly what you were doing there.
Well, Keith, I had to show you something because you were accusing me of gunboating. I'm not gunboating. I'm trying everything.
I was like, he laid down the plan. I was like, he had to get Russia and Germany to fight, and his probably his last words were, "I'm gonna have this order in. So if you take it, you take it. If not, you don't." But you should.
The last thing I said was I was talking to Tim because I knew Darcy was gonna sleep past deadline. I said to Tim, Darcy's on board. Take Norway. Take Norway anyway.
Anything. Gets another fleet.
Oh, by the way, I should ask you, it's almost a ridiculous question given Cedric's position, which was criticized at this point, not before he goes to North, but how committed he was to you. There was no chance of getting Cedric to turn around, I assume.
No. Cedric was talking to me every turn at this point, and he had no intention of turning around. He was telling me, "Oh, you're going to live. Nobody wants to eliminate you. You're going to live, but you need to go down a couple of dots."
As it turns out, you needed to go down 5. But it's a good convoy here. Did you see it coming?
No. This one I did not see coming. I was pretty impressed by the move.
Yeah. He loves.
I think Keith called this convoy actually.
I knew he'd try to go to Gascony sometime this game. He just loves going to Gascony. So,
but we've got this, and this is obviously horrible for you. And in the fall, I think you lose Marseille. Am I right? No, you keep Marseille this time.
Yeah, this was the one time that I was tipped off on what was coming. Cedric told me, "I'm going to guarantee myself Brest," so I knew what his moves were going to be.
Yeah, and
now they go after Russia. So
now they go after Russia.
You haven't. I told you so from a year before. Should have taken Norway.
Yeah.
What's your view of? Okay, it turns out it wasn't agreed, but there was a big debate. Were we like idiots thinking it might have been agreed? I mean, at least
that Sweden was agreed.
not Sweden, but the move before. Okay, go to spring 1904. This move to Baltic here.
No, that was not agreed.
Okay, and Tim knew at the time there was a stab coming.
Yes, I don't know why he didn't move to Baltic, but he was very concerned that there was a stab coming.
I mean, the thing is with Darcy is like, I think maybe even we applauded it, like, because he wanted to get something and he wasn't getting Belgium, but he sacrificed everything for Cedric. Okay, back to the fall here. I mean, he's putting, and then he has to back off.
Yeah, and he fully expected Cedric to reciprocate, and it just never happened.
I don't know how Cedric could have reciprocated at this point. Builds an army here. This is a critical problem.
This is when he needs to build a fleet.
One of the reasons that I was able to predict a lot of what was going on was because I knew that Cedric was going to choose himself. I knew that Cedric was never going to allow Darcy to build unless it was to his advantage to allow Darcy to build. So
all right. We get an army by Darcy here, which is really the fatal. I mean, we're talking about you, but this is really a game where both you and Darcy lost Cedric in a way. Okay.
And Darcy told me he was building a fleet here, that he was absolutely building a fleet.
He needed to. I mean, even the pop Skagerrak, it would have made sense to build a fleet here. Building an army is just coercion at this point.
The disband of Gascony, I think, had some discussion by us. Your thoughts?
So I was negotiating with Cedric at this point, and I was pitching Cedric on him basically already having enough dots to win as long as he stabbed Darcy now. And that was a very long conversation I had with Cedric, and I decided to disband Gascony because I honestly believe that if the EG stayed together, I was going to be eliminated. And so I got stuck in this horrible position. And it's not just the disband of Gascony, it's the moves in 1905,
Right.
where I'm like, I know Cedric is lying to me. There's a 90% chance that Cedric is lying to me, but I get eliminated if he's lying to me 100%. And in that 10% chance that he's not lying to me, I actually could survive.
Yeah, if he pulls some pressure off of Brest, maybe he pivots. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's roll it through. Yeah, here you lose Marseille. This is it turns out to be fine, but at the time they're playing together. So I guess Cedric did lie to you here.
Yeah, so Cedric did lie to me, and we had a really rough conversation after this, because Cedric basically popped in and said, I knew you were going to stab me. And I was like, no, I did not stab you. You stabbed me, and it's really offensive to me that you are telling me I stabbed you, and that's why you stabbed me.
Man, I hate it when people do that.
And he was like, well, no, you made this move on Brest. I was like, I tapped Brest because I thought there was a good chance that Brest would support NAO to MAO. Our conversation really devolved, and we stopped talking for a while after this.
He gave you the gas.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's just sort of play by numbers from here. You lose Paris, but you could have lost either Paris or Marseille. You prioritized taking Marseille back. I think that's the right call.
Yeah.
I was surprised you didn't tap Burgundy here to ensure Marseille goes, but
I didn't think I needed to. My assumption pretty much the whole game was that Cedric was going to do stuff for himself. So I didn't think I needed to tap Burgundy in order to take Marseille back. And I was going to try to make some attempt to defend MAO.
Do you have any insight on whether this was unwanted support into Denmark?
I don't think it was unwanted. I think Cedric knew this was the time, and he was. I mean, I don't think Darcy would like the term janissary management, but I think this was janissary management. And Tim was very upset. He was going to do anything that was going to sabotage Darcy at this point.
Because
Darcy
he saw the threat of Cedric, and he was upset that Darcy did not.
Darcy had doubled down on confronting Tim rather than doing anything about Cedric running away with the game. Because Cedric at this point has Brest, is going to get Paris. And it's like, well, if you're in an EG, why isn't Germany getting Paris? And I'm sure Darcy's response is, well, I'm getting Marseille. Well, what if you're not getting Marseille? So Tim was really frustrated that Darcy was doubling down on the EG when the EG didn't make sense anymore.
I wonder if he expected Burgundy to support Marseille.
But doesn't Marseille go to Gascony here?
Yes.
Yeah, he taps it. Yeah.
So Cedric convinced Darcy that he needed to tap Gascony so that Paris could fall.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it was always a one-sided negotiation, but this is a brutal term for Germany where, he's down one, but really down two if you think about it. And there's nothing at this point you can really do to get Darcy to turn around, right? Those armies can't. This is what we kept talking about. Those armies are out of position. Russia can't attack England.
Yeah,
frustrated.
After this turn was actually when my relationship with Darcy was at its peak, because he was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to disband Piedmont and I'm going to stop messing with you. I was like, okay, great. And that was the best we ever had.
This is the best. All right, roll it through the winner here.
Two more
Okay,
fleets.
he does. Two more fleets, and let's keep going. They got to get rid of the Skagerrak. For you, it's just sort of okay. They're advancing now. I mean, it's a little bit good, right? Because they're not in Burgundy. I mean, you made all the right tactical calls. It just has to be very frustrating. I think at this point, you reached out to me and you thought the game was almost predetermined. I think you had expressed your frustration to me.
Yeah, I was pretty frustrated. I felt like there was, because of Darcy's position, Darcy's decision, and the sort of constant bickering between Tim and Darcy, that it was inevitable that Cedric was going to win. And oh, by the way, the East was a mess. There were so many stabs in the East where there couldn't be any dominant power in the East. And it's like, I wanted Tim to do something, but every time he got a build, he was like, oh, Darcy's still attacking me, so I need an army to fight Darcy.
Because this is another good point where ER could get back on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Denmark could go, Norway could go, and they could put them
You
back.
You mean EG?
ER.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Sweden goes into Denmark, lets Skagerrak into Norway. Cedric goes down 2. Like, this is the point where this is the second time Darcy could get a fleet down and get back in the game.
But that's not an ER.
Oh, I mean, GR, sorry.
Okay, that's what I thought.
GR.
Yeah. It seems like the way Rob's describing it is that which is strange because of all the people, I would have thought Tim and Darcy would probably get along really well. But it turns out that they were just bickering.
Yeah.
which of course is great if you're Cedric. It's just what you want. Okay, roll through to the fall. Lose Burgundy, Western Med, everything's sort of supposed to be here. They piff the Russian fleet. Germany and Russia fighting. I think at this point we're seeing draw proposals. If I'm not mistaken, I think I am mistaken. I think it was 07 maybe, but
Yeah,
all
I
right.
think at one point I was, even though Tim was up a dot, I was pitching surrendering to Cedric just because it seemed inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was last turn, 8-8. Right?
Yes, it was 8-8 when it was 8-8. Yeah. Or 10. Yeah.
You asked about concessions, and I didn't have a problem with it because if all of you put concession in, what would we done if the game ended? So I thought that was fine because the game would have said Cedric won. But Pixie said no, that there was
All
nothing in the rules to cover that.
Roll me through to 07. Now, inevitable, you lose Marseille, you lose Mid-Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one time you
So-
lose on your tactics for the most part, outside of Gascony. But
okay. Yeah. Here, what was your view of the Tunis move? Was that were you consulted on that, or were you just sort of not playing at this point? We get the stab, by the way.
No, I wasn't told that was happening, but I wasn't surprised that happened. I know Cedric put some comment about it in the finals chat. Apparently, Turkey was supposed to go for Tunis, so Cedric was supposed to bounce him, but I don't know if that was coverage or not.
Meanwhile, do you even talk to Darcy at this point? Cedric finally does make an official stab as opposed to the what you would call janissary management, right? I mean, this is
a real stuff. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to go to I
this is
told
a
you
real
to so to
stab.
someone, but yeah.
I didn't get anything from Darcy. I think Darcy was pretty frustrated at this point. Cedric's explanation for it was that Darcy had asked him for 3 dots in one turn, and that was just too much for Cedric to swallow. So he just flipped and went all in on the stat.
That's the information I got too.
3 dots. He wanted Marseille, St. Peter's. No, not Marseille. He wanted
Vienna, St. Petersburg, and Denmark.
Okay. Well, he wasn't going to get Vienna.
Well, there's always a chance.
But yeah. Well, this is what happened.
Olympus, Vienna fell. So
I think 08 was the janissary attempted janissary. Am I right?
Yeah. So Cedric and I were both saying the same things, and from my perspective, if Cedric wanted to eliminate me, he just had too many units and he would have eliminated me. So rather than try to slow him down because I only could have gotten one additional season if I had kept Portugal, I agreed with Cedric that I would janissary in exchange for survival.
Was he supposed to go to Western Med here?
In the fall when he took Portugal.
Well, even now he could have gone to Western Med.
No, he didn't tell me he was taking Spain. I assumed he was taking Spain. He told me that I was going to finish the year on 1, and I was fine with that because I didn't have a choice.
Do you have any insight into the Russia-Turkey relationship? Because we see that there was this sort of semi-attempted throw. Did you have any knowledge of that?
Yes. Tim came to me and told me that Turkey was going to throw to Russia and that I should get on board with that. And I said, okay. And I think this was in going into the fall rather than in the spring.
Move it in the fall, Keith. Yeah, here we go.
And Turkey, I asked Turkey about it, and Turkey said, yes, I'm going to throw to Russia. And I said, really? Because that didn't happen in the semi. And he said, yes, I am committed to it. I am going to throw to Russia. And so,
yeah.
so I had a decision to make as to whether to support Russia into Venice or continue with the Janissary deal. And I liked the idea of Cedric not winning. That was really appealing. But I was like, I don't want to short Philip. I didn't feel like that was fair to Philip or the way our relationship had gone. And I sort of the tipping point was thinking about Tim and Tim never building a northern fleet. It was sort of like, okay, if you're Russia and you're trying to win the game with no northern dots, does that make sense? And so I decided to stick with my support of Venice.
And you got one on Darcy.
Or accept the support from Venice. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're gone. Did Cedric give you any kind words at the end? I'm sorry I didn't go to Western Med or whatever. Did he talk to you about it at all or no?
He said he felt he needed to clean up any loose ends. Which
you're the loose end.
Yeah,
you're the worm
I'm
sack
the
of poo in the sack that he's got to throw in the garbage.
Yeah, I'm the loose end. I'm the witness to the crime that needs two in the back of the head. But no, I actually thought that was an indication that Cedric was going to try to solo, because I didn't think forcing me to disband Tyrolia made any sense if he was just trying to tie up the board top.
Yeah, I think I was with you on that one.
I think his solo chances are better if he just leaves Portugal in the open and uses your fleet. Or uses
either of those units are great. Either of those units are wonderful.
But okay, well, you didn't play 1909, but do you think a solo's coming? Do you think he's the one vetoing the draw? We're seeing all this.
Yeah, I assume he is. I remember that Cedric is in his interview talked about the first time he played in a final and how he had this dream of being the first person to solo in a final. And that sort of came back to me as we were playing 1908. And I was like, yeah, I think Cedric's trying to do something that nobody's done before.
I'm not sure he can. I don't think he can solo. I mean, it's possible, right? Depends on Tim, I think. But
yeah, it depends on Tim, and it depends on whether Philip gives him dots, which I don't see any reason why Philip would. But we'll see.
I guess we will see. All right. So anything that we didn't cover that you want to cover about the game? Want to say that you didn't get a chance to say that we missed?
No. I just I think I said everything that I wanted to say so far. That Keith, I think you were a propagandist for Cedric. that didn't help me in any way, and that I wish I had understood Darcy's motivation earlier in the game, because Darcy made some decisions that, along with the mess that was the East, really dictated this game so that Cedric had to win.
Yeah. Keith, any other questions for Rob?
No.
You want to defend your honor?
It would play, but I guess he just had the best opening on Darcy, so he just took it. So
I'm going to say this. I don't think Keith was a propagandist for Cedric. I think Keith just likes Cedric's style of play. And I think those are two different things.
they're very similar styles of play. I mean, I would have played this exactly the same way. Run the EG as long as possible, and then as soon as there's an opening, take it. And there was an opening way earlier.
Well, I
might have stabbed it a little bit later.
I will say at one point that Ed made a comment about, oh yeah, Cedric's a diplomacy genius and we all just don't get it. I would say that Cedric may be a diplomacy genius, but this game is not proof of that one way or the other.
Well, I was saying that was sarcasm, right? I was saying it in his mind.
Yeah.
He has all the, and he gets mad when you don't see his or recognize his genius.
Yeah, and I get that you were saying it sarcastically, but that he would be sitting there poring over this position and saying, "Wow, nobody really appreciates the game that I'm playing," and I'm like, "Yeah, I see what you're doing. I just think Darcy put himself in an awful position, and you took advantage of that. I don't think that's diplomacy genius. I think it's the right thing to do in order to win the game, but it's not. It's something that a lot of people could have done."
It is like, I am a little, I don't know if I should say it, but I'll say this. I don't like the way Cedric plays England. Okay. What I mean by that is 16 units with only 3 armies is not the way I would play England.
Yeah, so he is fleet heavy.
Yeah.
What is this? I count 3. I count 3 armies.
Piedmont.
When I was janissarying,
Piedmont. Yeah. Even still, though.
When I was janissarying for him, he said, "You'll end the game in Munich." And I was like, "Great, that makes perfect sense. He doesn't have enough armies to get into Munich, so I'll fit into that niche." But no, it was just another lie.
That explains Tyrolia there. Okay, I didn't understand why you were moving to Tyrolia. Now I get it. Okay. All right. Well, just another lie by Cedric is a good way to end this episode. Thank you, Rob, for coming in, giving us your perspective. Unfortunately, you won't have the last word. 5 other people will get the word after you, but you do get really functionally the first word, since I can't remember a word that Richard has said. So, congrats on making it to the finals. I hope to see you on other top boards.
Okay.
And face-to-face tournaments. Maybe you'll come to Carnage if you're on the East Coast. That'd be fun to play with you.
Yeah, Carnage might be tough, but I'm looking at maybe going to BlazeCon.
Cool. Nice. All right. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Keith. And
Thanks,
good night,
guys.
fellas.
Good night.
Have a good night.